General Garland, Elon Musk was a Democrat who admittedly supported Biden, but then he became a critic of the administration and exposed the censorship regime. Now, per public reports, the DOJ has opened not one but two investigations of Elon Musk. Mark Zuckerberg, on the other hand, spent $400 million in 2020 tilting the elections secretly for Democrats. No investigations whatsoever. To the American public, these look like mafia tactics. You pays your money, we look the other way. You get in our way, we punish you. The American public sees what these tactics are.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about a House Judiciary hearing where Attorney General Merrick Garland was put on the hot seat by Republicans in regards to the overt corruption coming from the administrative state, the Department of Justice being one of the most obviously corrupt institutions in our country, and has been a whole lot of heat because they're so obviously overtly corrupt that everybody can see it, okay? Everybody can see the clear double standard between the charges they're bringing against Trump, specifically when it comes to the classified documents case, versus the fact that they're slow walking it with Biden, okay, and him committing essentially the same infraction, right? When it comes to Hunter Biden, they tried to give him a slap on the wrist. Okay, they're pretending to be tough on him. Okay, they're going after pro-lifers who are simply exercising their First Amendment rights. Okay, as they try to protect life in this country, they're targeting parents who stand up to woke school boards and school districts that are trying to indoctrinate their children in woke radical ideology. This is clearly a Department of Justice that has been weaponized by the Biden administration, okay, to do the political bidding of the Biden administration, including locking up and jailing political opponents. Now, there's one double standard that we got to talk about here that is specifically relevant to this clip I'm about to show you guys from the House Judiciary hearing, which has to do with January 6th, okay? The fact that you have people who were simply just taking a Capitol Police sponsored tour of the Capitol, getting massive, crazy jail sentences, even if they weren't there. Like, for example, the leader of the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio, this guy got 20 years and he wasn't even at the Capitol, right? Wasn't even at the Capitol. They treat these violent criminals in these liberal cities better than they treat people who were nonviolent on January 6th, okay? That's what's happening in this country. And people have asked questions about, well, what is the federal government's role in what happened on January 6th? Why was January 6th even allowed to happen in the first place? And there's a whole lot of speculation, again, in regards to how involved was the feds, okay? And one of the reasons why people believe or speculate that the feds may have been involved is because there are some characters that clearly were encouraging violence on January 6th, caught on camera. We see it. For whatever reason, they're not suspects of interest, right? They don't actually seem to be on the radar of the government, which makes people believe that, hey, this could be a part of some type of setup. And again, one of the characters that has come under scrutiny is Ray Epps. Ray Epps was seen at the Capitol that day, encouraging people to break into the Capitol. And for whatever reason, he's not on the FBI's radar, right? The feds don't really care about him, at least up until now, because, again, they're on the hot seat. The DOJ, the feds, they're on the hot seat because the corruption is so overt that now they need to pretend like they're fair and balanced, right? That they're not a corrupt organization. And see, look, we're going to actually go after Ray Epps and Hunter Biden, okay? We're going to slap Ray Epps on the wrist with a misdemeanor charge instead of throwing the book at him the same way that they did with the other people that were involved in January 6th. And again, conservatives / Republicans in Congress are raising questions about what, again, appears to be another double standard in what obviously is an attempt by the DOJ and the mainstream liberal media to try to prove the right-wing conspiracy theorists wrong in regards to questioning what was the government's role on January 6th. Anybody with two brain cells to rub together realizes that, hey, they're not actually trying to punish Ray Epps. This is just another psyop from the feds.
So I'm not going to violate this norm of the rule of law. I'm not going to comment on an investigation that's ongoing.
Peter Navarro was indicted for contempt of Congress. Aren't you, in fact, in contempt of Congress when you give us this answer? This is an answer that's appropriate at a press conference. It's not an answer that's appropriate when we are asking questions. We are the committee that is responsible for your creation, for your existence of your department. You cannot continue to give us these answers. Aren't you, in fact, in contempt of Congress when you refuse to answer?
Congressman, I have the greatest respect for Congress. I also have the greatest respect for the Constitution and laws of the United States. The protection of pending investigations and ongoing investigations, as I briefly discussed in another dialogue a few moments ago, goes back to the separation of powers, which gives to the executive branch the sole authority to conduct prosecutions. It's a requirement of due process and respect for those who are under investigation, the protection of their civil rights.
Well, with all due respect to that, Iran-Contra was an ongoing investigation, and that didn't stop Congress from getting the answers. And you're getting in the way of our constitutional duty. You're citing the Constitution. I'm going to cite it. It's our constitutional duty to do oversight. Now, in that video, that was your answer to a question to me 2 years ago when I said how many agents or assets of the government were present on January 5th and January 6th and agitating in the crowd to go into the Capitol and how many went into the Capitol. Can you answer that now?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Oh, last time you don't know how many there were or there were none?
I don't know the answer to either of those questions. If there were any, I don't know how many. I don't know whether there are any.
I think you may have just perjured yourself that you don't know that there were any. You want to say that again, that you don't know that there were any?
I have no personal knowledge of this matter. I think what I said last time.
You've had 2 years to find out. And the day, by the way, that was in reference to Ray Epps. And yesterday you indicted him. Isn't that a wonderful coincidence? On a misdemeanor. Meanwhile, you're sending grandmas to prison. You're putting people away for 20 years for merely filming. Some people weren't even there yet. You got the guy on video who's saying go into the Capitol. He's directing people to the Capitol before the speech ends. He's at the site of the first breach. You've got all the goods on him, 10 videos, and it's an indictment for a misdemeanor. The American public isn't buying it. I yield the balance of my...
Yeah, we're not buying it, right? We are not buying it. We, the American people, right? We, the people, are not buying what clearly and obviously is another psychological operation from the deep state to mislead the American people and to try to dispel the right-wing conspiracy theories. It does not make sense to charge this man with a misdemeanor, okay, when he's on camera doing all these things and you're throwing grandmas in prison, right? Full-blown felony charges. Again, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. You're simply just trying to dispel the so-called conspiracies that the feds were involved in, which, hey, we still don't even know the answer. We still don't even know. We can't even get a straight answer from a guy that is running the Department of Justice in regards to whether or not feds were involved. It has been 2 years. So we've investigated everything about January 6th except were the feds involved, right? Again, if they weren't, you just say no. No, they weren't involved. Okay? That should be investigated. Why have we not investigated that? We should know. Again, this goes back to what Vivek Ramaswamy was saying, okay, in which he got a whole lot of heat unjustly for his comments in regards to 9/11, okay, in which he was like, look, I don't think feds were involved, but if we're investigating why it happened, we should know, right? If they were involved, like, we should have a definitive answer. We should have a yes or a no. The fact that the federal government, okay, the Department of Justice, can't even give you a straight answer. The FBI can't either. In regards to whether or not feds were involved, tells you that there's so much corruption here, okay? Because if they weren't involved, the answer is no. And there should be an investigation in regards to whether or not they were. This is not being conspiracy brained. This is just basic oversight, right? This is basic, hey, we're trying to see if there was any type of corruption here, if this was, something that the government may be involved in. Like, that's what the American people should know. The fact that we don't know it and we can't get an answer to it tells you how corrupt the administrative state is. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the real decision makers in our country, the people who actually have the power, are not the elected politicians. It is the unelected bureaucrats who, again, run the administrative state. Okay. Most people don't deal with politicians. They deal with the administrative state. They deal with the bureaucrats. The bureaucrats are the ones that are really responsible for setting the policies and working out the fine details. Okay. Politicians vote on broad sweeping changes, right? It's the administrative state job to carry out those changes. And a lot of times they are not actually held accountable because they're not answerable to the people. Okay. And our administrative state has become so big, so bureaucratic, and so inefficient and so corrupt that the only way to actually fix this problem is to essentially tear it down, right? And the only candidate in the GOP race that is actually presenting what, in my opinion, is an actual real argument and plan to do this is Vivek Ramaswamy, and his blueprint is the blueprint that any Republican that's looking to do this, Trump is promising to do it, DeSantis is promising to do it, you got to follow this blueprint because this is the only answer if we want to rid this government of corruption.
Before I get into the details of the first 5 agencies we will shut down and the basis for rescinding a broad swath of federal regulations, it's first and most importantly worth understanding why it hasn't happened yet. This vision is not an original vision. I'll be the first to admit that. Good presidents, excellent presidents, from Reagan to Trump, have spoken to the same ideal. And I give credit to Donald Trump for taking more steps than have been taken in a generation in the direction with the Schedule F exceptions that they began late in the term, aided by many people in this room. That was a step forward. But in order to actually get this job done, we're going to have to confront several myths that have been perpetuated in this town by advisors and members of the very bureaucracy we're looking to shut down that we're going to have to confront and overcome to understand how the U.S. president can actually get this job done. We're going to go through those today. It's our first time doing a speech like this with visuals, so you'll have to be patient and see how this one goes. But I think it's important to understand the specifics. The first myth is that the President of the United States does not single-handedly have the ability to set what you would call the human resources policies, the hiring and firing policies in the federal government. That view is wrong. Put that there. The truth of the matter is that the U.S. president actually enjoys broad statutory authority to prescribe the rules of the civil service. If you want the citation, turns out the president, and I'm going to read from the U.S. Code, may prescribe such regulations for the admission of individuals into the civil service of the executive branch that will best promote the efficiency of that service. That's 5 U.S.C. 3301. Now, most federal employees work in what's called the competitive service. Well, it turns out the rules governing the competitive service for the U.S. president are even broader, pursuant to 5 U.S.C. 3302, that says the U.S. president has similar power to, I quote the law, prescribe rules governing the competitive service, which includes most federal bureaucrats. What does that mean? It's like the equivalent of working at a company. The HR department does not actually determine the rules without reporting into the CEO. It works the same way for the U.S. federal government as well.
Yeah, so this is what we have to do, right? And there is a full-blown plan to do it. It's called Project 2025. I encourage you guys to check it out. It is a bunch of conservative kind of think tanks coming together, setting aside their differences and saying, this is going to be the agenda for the Republican Party, specifically the executive branch, if we take back power, right? Which is to take down the administrative state, right? We're going full libertarian on this issue, okay? We're going full libertarian, right? We have to deconstruct the administrative state, okay? I'm so serious. And a lot of people are afraid of that, okay? They're afraid of the idea of reducing the federal government by 50 or 75%. Well, I'm just saying that, people were afraid of Elon Musk doing mass layoffs at Twitter, right? The left-wing liberal media said Twitter's going to collapse. Twitter won't be able to operate, right? And people who actually really understand business and startups understand that, no, that's not what's going to happen with Elon Musk firing 75% of the workforce. He's just going to cut the fat off the company, right? And guess what? X/Twitter has been just fine, right? In fact, they've expanded. They've actually have more features and they're more innovative as a platform than they were when they were bloated. The federal government works the same way. It is bloated, okay? Bureaucracy and inefficiency is out of control in this country, and that breeds corruption because there's much less oversight, okay? You can't really hold people accountable when there's too many people, right? The federal government's too damn big, okay? And one of the main priorities, if we actually really want to rid the corruption, is to deconstruct the administrative state. And this is something that we have to push for. We probably won't get 75%. We won't get 50%. But if Vivek Ramaswamy, his theory here is true about the executive branch having the power to issue mass layoffs, then, again, if we can get 25%, if we can get 30%, that's a good start, right? I'm just saying, this is what we have to do and push for ultimately. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.